Thank you for the opportunity to review the budget that is before us today, the President's proposed budget. Pretty stunning increase, actually, $2.5 billion increase for this subcommittee's programs. That certainly gets your attention. For many of the programs the department manages, there is a seemingly bottomless amount of need. We've had an opportunity to talk about that in the context of those programs, particularly as they relate to American Indians, Alaska Natives. But I think it's important for us to recognize that oftentimes it's not just a matter of increasing funding, but it's how we plan for the execution of these funds. So we're still waiting the details of many of the proposals that are contained in the budget request, and I'm going to be looking forward to evaluating them as we're considering our FY 2022 bill. I will note that I read through your 17-page statement in full last night, and I actually read it a second time because I was really struck by the fact that in 17 pages of discussion outlining the budget for the Interior, Environment, and related agencies, there really is no recognition for the production on our federal lands and the role that plays. I was just looking at page 2, you note the department's economic contributions report for FY19 in stating Interior's mission activities supported an estimated 1.9 million jobs and $336 billion in economic output. We recognize, again, so much of that economic output comes from our ability to produce responsibly and with good oversight on our public lands. So know that these will be at the heart of many of my questions this morning. We have had multiple conversations since your nomination to discuss our shared commitment to our Native people. While the proposal to spend an additional $723 million over the FY21 enacted levels appears to be forward progress across the board for all tribal programs, it's hard for me to make that definitive statement without further detail. So we'll wait on the program details. We hope that we'll receive those soon. One issue that the committee has struggled with over the last few years is the 105L lease, tribal lease agreements. We've talked about that. I was glad to see the proposal to reclassify this funding. I think that this is a good step forward in attempting to bring back some predictability to the appropriations process for tribal programs. So we thank you for that. The overall increase for public safety and justice activities will help to support safe tribal communities, but there's still a few areas, high priority programs such as PL 280, where we can't determine what funding levels are being proposed, even though there is an overall increase. So I'll address that more in my questions, but funding for PL 280 has been critical for states like Alaska and will continue to be a high priority for me. I also appreciate the request's commitment to critical mineral development. I've worked on this issue for a number of years to increase our domestic production of critical minerals. I think we talk about it a lot around here, both Republicans and Democrats. If you want to get to your renewable energy future, we're going to have critical minerals, and in order to have critical minerals, we can't just recycle everything. We have to actually produce some of the critical minerals first before we can recycle. And so I'm pleased to see that there is the department's commitment to continue the advancement of an OCS critical mineral inventory and to expanding efforts of identifying onshore critical minerals as reserves as well. Resource issues in Alaska. Madam Secretary, you know that we're under a political microscope in the state. The management of public lands in Alaska are often the subject of people who've never been there. They quite possibly and probably don't understand Alaskans' commitment to our lands and our wildlife, and they don't appreciate the importance in Alaska of opportunities to responsibly develop our critical natural resources that provide jobs and power our nation. This was part of our statehood compact. It was part of the terms within which we came into these United States, was that we would have that opportunity to develop our resources. The Willow Project, we've talked about a lot, went through a rigorous permitting process. It's proceeding to development because we have demonstrated in Alaska that we can hold our projects to an extremely high standard and then meet that standard. So it was one of the reasons why it wasn't a surprise, but no less a disappointment to learn that your department was suspending leases in Alaska's 1002 area in direct conflict with the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. I have shared with you directly, and I have spoken to others within the department. Bottom line, we expect you to follow the law, and the law mandates an oil and gas leasing program to be established on the non-wilderness coastal plain, which I will remind everyone, this was set aside, this was purposely set aside for future exploration and development in the law that created the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, and then ordered at least 2 lease sales by 2024. The oil and gas leasing program established for the 1002 area meets the legal mandates that were required by Congress, including imposing a framework with a range of environmental safeguards that are successfully guiding production elsewhere in northern Alaska. This action serves political interests while obstructing Alaska's economy and putting our nation's energy security at greater risk. All while the department has acknowledged with the Willow Project that Alaskans can do this, that we're committed to developing our resources responsibly. We've demonstrated our ability to do so safely to others in this country and to the world. The chairman here noted a federal district court ruling yesterday that the department's halting of lease sales is unlawful. So in light of this very important ruling, I expect today to hear your plans to resume implementation of those lease sales. As we were reminded yesterday, it is the Secretary's job to faithfully execute the laws as they are written, not as one wishes they were. These lease sales are causing states to lose out on, quote, millions if not billions. This was the quote from the judge's ruling yesterday. Causing states to lose out on millions if not billions in revenue and funding for critical conservation and land acquisition programs that are important to all of us, but that you, Madam Secretary, have championed and that your department relies on. This is where you get that source of economic revenue and gain. So Secretary Haaland, you and I don't always see eye to eye on the issues related to Alaska, but we need to be able to have these discussions back and forth, you to hear me from Alaskans' perspective and me to hear you. I respect that. I know that Alaskans are looking forward to your promised visit later this summer, where you'll have an opportunity to meet folks from around the state and see for yourself how Alaskans are working every day to not only develop the promise that was made at statehood, but to be a good, strong, supportive partner to the other 49 states as we help to develop our resources for the benefit of all Americans and our friends. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to hearing the exchange with the Secretary this morning and the questions from my colleagues.